They did work, but they lived there in their little kind of car,
She would
almost
take them all in. She was very...
cardboard. Well, she let them live there.
Yeah.
And they cooked, and they had their own little mayor, their own, and they swept the dirt to keep, at the front of their little steps. They were so
Well, she was a sucker for anybody
down on their luck.
that was down and out.
Yes.
Come in.
Now you're talking about Victoria Comstock.
Yeah,
Right.
No, Victoria Sheridan.
Comstock Sheridan.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That was Neil's mother.
Right. Huh.
So she was a very basic woman. Yeah, I
Well,
loved
there
her. She
books
was
written about Comstock.
So that's right, you remember her. She's not that far back.
Probably she remembered her better than I do.
Yeah, because see, after my mother and father divorced, I used to go down there on weekends or something, or some weekends. I remember.
Oh, no,
going
you were
down.
much older. You were just a little, you were smaller.
Yeah. But when I was about 7 or 8, that's
Yeah.
what I really remember the time, being down there.
Yeah.
I guess they must have died when I was 10 or 11 or 12. I can't remember. Somewhere around there. She did. She died first, and Grandpa is still living. They're very, very interesting people, but for being so small, she was a strong-minded person.
Oh, very. But she said when.
You bet. And she ruled the roost of all those men. See, she had all those
She raised
boys.
all those.
She had one girl, and that girl died when she was about 3 or 4 or something like that. She just barely,
Yeah.
that was her.
And then
one
all the
daughter.
boys lived in
All the boys lived there. She had a house full of boys and then men, as they grew up. And she cooked on a wood-burning stove, and boy, could she cook. She spent her whole life in that kitchen, I swear, just cooking and
Feeding all
scrubbing
those
wooden
men.
floors.
Her husband, I can remember Pop Sheridan, never getting out of his chair.
Yeah, that's right. Kind of with his
He was
pipe and
editor of
his...
the newspaper, but he didn't put on. But he'd sit in front of the fire, and poor Grandma Sheridan would be out there doing all the work and doing the dishes and doing everything, and Pop wouldn't have saw her going out and doing anything, helping her. And with all these kids, Grandma Sheridan worked like a little trooper.
Oh, yeah, she was full of strength.
Yeah.
But she did not lack for men around her, plus the hobos. I remember there was one that did whittling and did whittling, wood carving, one of those hobos.
Oh.
And, he was a interesting man. He had come all the way across the country. But, it was just interesting, the different people. They were nothing like which I don't want to call street people. Well, they are street people, but they're not the homeless because they never lived here in the first place. Never had homes. These men had homes at one time. Something tragic in their life had happened, or the Depression threw them out, and there they were. And they hit the trains. The road just traveled. And they were true hobos, but not bums. They never bummed a thing. They worked for everything they got. They were really interesting people.
They want the hobo type that wanted a free lunch or anything.
I know one of them had a law book. That was his Bible. I often thought, I bet he was a lawyer at one time.
You bet he was what?
A lawyer. But he just left the world and decided this was the life, this uncomplicated life for him to live. So they were very brilliant men, some of them. Seemed as though they had good background of some kind.
Did Edwin and Victoria have a big house, or did they live simply, or?
It was a big old 2-story.
It was an old house,
Very old, mid-Victorian.
But they built that house before the train came in.
Yeah.
Imagine, it was early, and it was near the beach, and they put up this nice house. Then
Was it opulent sort of thing, or was it opulent with chandeliers and that kind of thing, or was it?
No, in those days
Very
they
basic.
didn't have But it had a lovely big fireplace, I remember, don't you? And it had, didn't it have a second story?
That's where all the bedrooms, well, some of the bedrooms were.
Yeah, and it was, well, they had a nice place. Then the railroad came right in front of their house. And
So they didn't have the beach anymore right in front of them. They didn't have the beach anymore. The railroad was right there.
Yeah.
They built a mound and put the
Yeah.
tracks on top of
I
it.
wonder how the railroad got that,
I don't know.
because they got some of the Sheridan property, so they must have bought it, because they bought our land, across the pond.
Down by the bird refuge.
Well, I bet the railroad property is worth a bundle now. All along the coast. I hadn't thought
Oh,
of
yeah.
that.
You can imagine. Someday they won't have the rails.
Well, what about Mr. Sheridan's parents? Do you know anything about them?
Oh, that's who we're talking
About Edwin Sheridan's
Oh, Edwin's.
parents. Do you know anything about Edwin?
Going
In other
back.
words, Neil's grandparents. Do you know about his grandparents?
Well, the most noted one was a writer. She Comstock. She wrote poetry, and I think
was
there was
Adelaide.
something nowadays, because they had a lecture here once, and I was, right since I've been here, and this name of Comstock came up as having written something, and I thought, I didn't say, oh, teacher, I kept still, but I thought, well, that's interesting, because it was Grandmother Comstock they were talking about. She wrote, she was a very intellectual person, and Grandma Sheridan was intellectual, and my husband was intellectual, and my children, but my husband didn't marry such an intellectual person. You see, that was the sad part.
I don't know. You had
to
to.
do her. Miss Modesty.
So you don't really know much about Edwin Sheridan's parents.
Oh, I never knew Edwin Sheridan's parents. His parents. This was his wife, Mother Sheridan was, but his parents I never. Comstock.
Well,
was on
that's-
Grandma's
Yeah,
Sheridan.
Grandma Sheridan.
Right.
But on Sheridan's side, I don't know a thing about his parents.
How about Mr. Comstock? We know
Never
that.
knew him.
Never knew him.
He was gone.
But tell me about you. What kind of person are you?
Well, I'm lazy. I like to play bridge.
She does.
You're not lazy, though.
She walks very
That's
well all the time.
I like to play bridge. I like to paint. I used to paint.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Very artistic.
That's where Tata gets her talent. Actually, didn't I see something that you did in your? Don't you have? What did you do in there? It was a.
Say, by the way, Tata has an exhibit in this.
In the library.
Yeah,
Today.
Montecito. Montecito Library.
Yes.
We thought about going out to see that.
It's closed on Sundays and Mondays,
Oh, it is. On Mondays, too.
which surprised me.
Well, that's
It's
too bad.
closed today?
And tomorrow,
Oh, no.
Sunday and Mondays. No,
Well, I thought Tata said I could go out today.
no, honey. Anytime.
She got out her paints and started painting it in an hour's time, I tell you. That was watercolor. You can't go over watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
Oils you can, but watercolor it's done when you painted something. She painted that boat picture. You look at it when you go to my room.
Okay.
And I was with her, and she painted that within an hour's time. And then we went up.
So that was
had dinner.
Tata.
Huh?
So that was Tata, and she inherited all that talent from you.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Well, now, was anybody in your family artistic? I mean, your parents or your grandparents?
Well, yes, I think that they were.
Your mother.
My mother.
Plates.
What?
She painted those plates in her room.
Well, that's right.
They're painted by your mother. So
What was that?
The plates are painted by your mother. The ones in your room, the flowers that she painted.
That'd be May Eels.
May Eels.
Oh yes. mother was from a very aristocratic. My grandfather, her father, owned a railroad in Ohio. Did I tell you?
Yes.
And it used to go around one state.
Uh-huh.
Imagine a railroad just going around in the state. I can't. It's hard to believe, isn't it? They must have had carriages and horses.
But for heavy things, I'm sure they needed it for the heavy things.
Oh,
Did you say he had a railroad car too, and they hook onto a train that came across
That's
country?
right.
Delta,
Yeah.
please call the office.
Yeah. But he's the one that my grandmother's father was very much interested in trees and exotic things. And he planted a lot of the trees in Alameda Park. I remember that.
Are you, or have you been involved with a lot of clubs here in Santa Barbara?
Oh, I'm still a PEO.
What does PEO mean?
Well, you're not supposed to know.
Oh,
Not even my daughter knows. Tata knows because she joined.
I see.
And they'd probably be after Betty, but Betty works, and so she couldn't, you know. But Mother was great in the Shakespeare Club. And in those days,
Oh, she's totally.
they used
I'll try to run through that.
the women would put on these plays, Romeo and Juliet. I've got some of those pictures in my room.
That's right, and the women played Juliet and Romeo both.
Romeo and Juliet, the women put on. My mother was a man in one of those plays, and I could see her
She
yet.
doesn't. She doesn't have an actress.
I was a little tiny kid.
No, I can't get her to sleep. Yeah, just period. She's